Hey friends, well, in a recent video about setting up my 4570 and getting it all sighted in, I showed the use of the Ballistic Calculator app, and I use the Straylock Pro, but there's several of them out there. And I think it's one of the most underutilized tools. Not everybody uses them, and I'm doing this video now at the request of a fan who is interested in learning more about them, but I think everyone should use one. I mean, you got your binoculars, you got your firearm, you got your scope, you got your rangefinder. The Ballistics Calculator goes hand in hand with that to help you to develop a good firing solution on animals. And I myself credit the ACSS reticle on one of my scopes and the Ballistics Calculator app with helping me come up with a accurate firing solution to harvest a elk at 650 yards with a firearm that I'd never shot past 250 yards. But I'd done all the work and got all the good data in, so I knew the trajectory and information in the Ballistics Calculator app was correct. So I felt comfortable and confident in using that information to harvest that elk. I myself use a lot of big bore guns, like 50 Beowulf, 4570, 460 Smith & Wesson Magnum. Then my long range rifles are my 6.5 Grindle and my 338 Lapua. For all those big bores with low ballistic coefficients and relatively narrow maximum point blank ranges, it's important to kind of know how your gun behaves at each distance. So when I have a chance to harvest an animal at 50 yards or 300 yards, understanding what that trajectory is, because it's not like with a lot of flatter shooting rifles, you'll have the ability to just point and shoot because your margin of error, your bullet drop, is fairly low. With the big bores, you have a significant amount of bullet drop, though you still have a lot of punch at those distances, but you need to know exactly how and where to aim in order to ethically harvest an animal. I myself use the Straylock Pro Ballistics Calculator. It's a great app with all the functions you need regardless of your caliber or your scope. I've got all the data for my rifles in. Each of those is a different rifle, and each of them has all their different individualized information input into the Ballistics Calculator app, in addition to all of their cartridges that they shoot. This is the scope data for my 50 Beowulf. It's got my yardage, my scope height, my adjustments, my reticle, and it has information for just about any reticle that's out there in the system so that you can find the one that matches your scope. Then you have your cartridge data. I've got data entered into the app for every cartridge that I shoot out of this rifle and all of my other rifles. It's quintessential that this information is recorded accurately, because this will help the app determine how a specific cartridge will perform out of your firearm. The app is only as good as the information in it, so we want to make sure that we have accurate information in the app so that we can form correct firing solutions for whatever situation we're presented with. Once we've got our scope and cartridge data in, then we can try to figure out what's the best distance to zero our rifle at. For that, I use the maximum point blank range calculator. You can enter the spread that you want in radius, which is also times it by 2 is the diameter. That's the maximum bullet rise or drop that you'll have within that maximum point blank range. For the animals that I hunt, I want it to be a 6-inch maximum spread, so 3 inches high or 3 inches low. Once you enter that in, you get your recommended zero distance, your maximum point blank range, and your near zero distance. For me, my near zero distance was 25 yards, so I sight my rifle in with 25 yards. Because I fire a lot of different projectiles out of this rifle, it also allows me to have accurate information regardless of what projectile, because everything hits about the same at 25 yards. So you'll see with the good data, I enter 25 yards, boom, it shows me that I'm right on, dead center at 25 yards. As I enter different yardages, it also will give me the correct adjustments that I need to make. It also gives you the opportunity to look at your full ballistics chart and analyze that data to determine the effectiveness of your rifle at different ranges. You can adjust what that chart says in a number of different ways. One of the next items you have is the ability to account for slope, high or low. Hit that up and move your phone around and it'll give you the slope for your shot. And one of the nemesis of low ballistic coefficient cartridges is wind. So it gives me the ability to calculate wind by hitting the estimated wind speed and the direction of the wind. And just for giggles, I'm gonna go ahead and put some slope back in here. And using that data, it'll help me determine again a correct firing solution for the current conditions. And that's how I should aim with the current conditions. Don't have a rangefinder? No problem if you've got mil or MOA markers on your scope. Input the estimated size of your target and the number of mils or MOA that it shows on your scope, and then hit calculate and it'll give you your distance. You can figure this out using math equations, or if you have a ballistics calculator app, it makes it quick and easy. And from there, you can just tell it to use that distance and it'll update your ballistics calculator with the distance that you've shown and teach you how to aim. You can even dial the correct number of clicks that you need for your firearm and adjust the reticle there as well, so that you can see how your adjustments to your turrets will affect the shot. So now you've done all this work and your bullets aren't hitting where they're supposed to. It can either be speed or your ballistic coefficient. Normally the ballistic coefficient is, if you're using the factory numbers, is right. So it's generally a matter of speed. So you take your distance of your target and it shows the current muzzle velocity of the target. Now it'll show you how many you input how many real correction units you do. So if you're shooting 15 inches low, then you put that in. Or you're shooting 12 inches low and put that in, and then that'll give you the adjustment to the velocity of your rounds as it's fired through your rifle. So those are just a few functions of a ballistics calculator app. They can actually do so much more, but those are the things that I use day in, day out to sight in my rifles and then make sure that I'm able to make good, clean, accurate shots in the field. And because none of us want to wound animals, none of us want to have them suffer any longer than they have to, or have to track them all day after a shot. So that helps reduce the chances of that. Normally when I get to my hunting location and get set up, I will go ahead and I will glass different markers where I expect animals to come in, and look at the ballistics calculator app and figure out what my aiming points are, as well as dial in the wind and weather conditions, and doing all that stuff so that when an animal shows up, I can just dial in the distance and I'll be good to go with a firing solution. Well, that's it today. I hope that's helpful. There's a lot of ballistics calculator apps out there. I love Straylock Pro, but get yourself one and learn to use it and get the good data in.